You are not a reflex fighter, which is what you have now gone to by dropping your hands. That's part and parcel of the reason why, you have decreased in ability, as well as your age. So these truths are what I speak. Now, some or a lot may say, well, okay, you're speaking against your son. No, I'm not speaking against my son. I'm speaking about the truth of boxing. I know there's a great deal of people, it seems, out there who are like, well, no matter what your son does, you gotta be in his corner. You gotta be behind him. How can you be behind someone who does not listen?
Conor's training like a man possessed, because the way he's looking, like compared to Chris Eubank Jr, he's a completely different fighter.
I'd like to see Conor knocking the out.
Does this
Conor will, I promise you, Conor will iron him out. It's not like, let's say, 4 or 5 rounds. It's when Conor hits him and he catches him, will hurt him. Because I know Conor can do 10, 12 rounds, no problem, but he won't even go there. It's when he hits him, he's going to feel the power. And Conor's electrifying. And Conor walks around that 12 stone now. I'm actually not worried. I'm actually more confident of this fight than me and Eubank seen.
The weight is a factor. The age, nobody seems to mention, is also a factor. Conor Benn being the younger man at his prime, yeah? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if Ben, especially the way he fights like his father, very aggressive, yeah? And listen, if I'm gonna have to, I normally can't say to you, predict what I believe will happen. Christopher Jr. is the bigger man, granted. It depends. If he's been living the lifestyle, that's also a factor. So it's a 50-50 fight.
I think you've got to say Eubank Jr. is a pretty strong favourite. But I was speaking to Nigel Benn at the press conference at Tottenham Hotspur, and I thought I better not sit around him too long, because his confidence, he was that confident that he almost swayed me. It's very infectious when you've got someone totally believing in themselves or their son.
prediction on that fight?
I just feel like Eubank's the bigger guy, and if he's strong at the weight, then I feel like he should win. But that's the big question: is he going to be strong? Because of the...
I'd have said Conor Benn, so I'd have to lean towards Chris. For what reason? Because his last fight, I wasn't impressed, but he's been more active, he's been busier, and so therefore you've got to lean towards. I would lean towards Chris for that reason. If Conor's career had carried on the way it carried on, then I'd say Conor, because I think he was one of the fastest developing fighters I'd ever seen in the UK at that particular time. So I just think that time out, I think we've lost an important period in Conor's development as a fighter.
I think since he got caught with performance enhancing drugs in his system, I think he's a shadow of the fighter. He's lost all his explosiveness, he's lost his power. So I don't think he's going to carry any dangers into that fight, if I'm completely honest.
What have you made of Chris Eubank Jr.'s mind games that he's been playing? He's found a good line that he's worked with, calling him a cheat and saying that he'll respect anyone but a drug cheat. Do you believe these mind games are having an effect on Conor Benn, first of all?
I do, but in a way you've got to respect it, because not many people do come out and say what they're thinking.
So yeah, I think the difficulty for Conor Benn in this fight is the weight and is the size. I think he's a better fighter. And I think at a natural weight class, he's a big favourite in the fight. But coming up 2 weight classes, it makes it a 50-50 fight. And you ain't going to blink in this one.
I don't. I think Chris is leaps and bounds ahead of Conor. His experience, the guys he's been in with. Take away the weight, because Chris is obviously going to be disadvantaged in there with the weight as well. But just ability, boxing skill set is on a completely different level. So,
but I think with Chris, this is purely business. This is purely business. I don't think he quite likes him very much. No. But I'm telling you now, it's a good thing that Conor's in Spain. Because imagine them two bumping into each other on London High Street on a Sunday afternoon.
We don't need that, do we?
No one needs that, no one wants it, but it's inevitable. So you literally have to navigate your way through these camps and keep these two boys away from each other, because
keep the lid on.
I've been there with this kind of animosity, and I've been there with this kind of domestic rivalry. It eats away at you. It's not nice. No. It literally eats away at you. It's on your mind daily, and you just it gets to it's an intense build-up. Like I said,
I felt sorry for Junior because he is a 34-year-old man at the time. He wants his own thing. His father is always going to be the centre of attention.
Yeah.
I think he's right to make his own decisions.
Simon, I see exactly what you're saying because Nigel has stood back from Conor's career and Chris Senior was right in the front at the beginning. And I think it's great that Junior is walking his own path.
So do I.
However, they have had horrendous tragedy in their family.
You know, but yeah, there's no honour in smacking someone with an egg. Shouldn't have happened.
How do you think the fight's going to play out?
I'm backing Conor Benn. I know Conor. Spoke to him a few times. Always been a top bloke to me. His dad's a top bloke. His dad's a legend, and I'll be backing him. But it's going to be difficult, as he's already alluded to, the two weight divisions coming up. But it'll also be difficult for Eubank to stay within that hydration clause. I think it is. So it's all to play for both men.
Yeah, I think it's a mismatch on paper. Of course it is. It's a fella that won a British title at welterweight, who hasn't boxed for a long time, against a failed world-class middleweight. So I haven't really got any interest, to be honest.
Egg slap not get you excited for it?
Not really, no. I'm not really an excitable guy.
Eubank Jr, I mean, he's stylish and he's skillful. And if that Liam Smith defeat, which worries me a bit for Chris, if that's sort of part of the past, that the rematch was emphatic for Eubank Jr, but it wasn't Liam's night really, and he had an injury going into it. So that defeat that Eubank suffered worries me a bit, but he's fought in better company, and Conor Benn's got it all to prove. But if there's one guy that wants it more, it's Conor Benn. There's no doubt about that.
Conor Benn charged at you on the pitch.
Honestly, a swear down, not at all.
Not at all?
Look at Eddie's reaction versus mine.
You did look chilled, I've got to be honest, because we just talked about your personality.
I think I stuck my hand out, which you would do, taking a step back, and was going to crack him. And then
I was going to crack him. You didn't stop smiling either, so you didn't flinch. And yeah, Eddie Hill did look worried.
Eddie turned round like the guy in the playground, like he always is, starts pointing and laughing. Anyway, it was funny. I enjoyed it. I actually like.
Seemed a bit stronger. He can punch Conor anyway. You know what I mean? He's always had a dig on him. I think you might get that from the old man, but he's improved a lot, Conor, and he can dig. So I think that would be a surprise for Eubank because he's quite very explosive. Conor is, you know what I mean? He's especially when he comes out of blocks, he's dangerous. You know what I mean? So it'll be an interesting fight for me to watch.
Yeah, look, it's a really good fight. You can look at it two ways, but I just look at it this way. It's a big fight, and anything can happen, and that's why it's box office, and that's why it's a big draw. So it'll be explosive, and anything can happen in that fight, but I'm looking forward to it.
If we weren't both fighters, absolutely. I could see myself being friends with him in a different life. But when you both know that you are, there is even the smallest possibility that at some point we may fight, a friendship could never be formed. And even though, when I met him in that gym 10, 12 years ago, I don't know how many years ago it was, I was obviously cool with him. We shook hands, we spoke, we would have spoken, but I can't be friends with.
Chris Eubank Jr. has just dropped a bombshell that completely shifts the narrative of his long-standing rivalry with Conor Benn. Years ago, when they first crossed paths in the gym, Eubank saw a glimpse of potential friendship. But instead of embracing it, he made a cold, calculated decision to shut it down immediately. Why? Because even back then, Eubank knew that one day they would meet in the ring, and emotions would have no place in that war. Picture it. Two sons of legends standing face to face. But while most would see a bond forged in legacy, Eubank was already thinking ahead. For him, it was always business over bonds. Ben might not have given it a second thought at the time, but Eubank had already made a choice.
Chris Eubank Jr. is that guy that's very calm, very collective, very educated, and knows what to say when. And Conor Benn is that emotional guy like his father was way back when. And so Chris has been pushing those buttons and Conor just has to control those emotions. But it's going to be emotions, but it's going to be...
Is the hardest part still to come?
Oh, absolutely.
In that respect?
Absolutely. Of course it is, because Chris knows how to push the buttons, and that's what fighters do. Fights are won and lost before the first bell rings. It's all a mind games. It's all...
No handshakes, no friendly exchanges, just pure, undistracted focus. That mindset laid the foundation for one of the most venomous rivalries in modern boxing. Now, the question is, will Eubank's icy approach give him the upper hand? Or will Benn's raw firepower break through the mental wall Eubank has built? Adding fuel to this psychological blaze is Spencer Oliver, who has openly stoked the fire between Eubank and Benn. On one side, you have Eubank Jr., the ultimate tactician. Calm, composed, always in control. On the other side, Conor Benn, a ticking time bomb, driven by emotion, much like his legendary father, Nigel Benn. It's a clash of mentalities, calculated mind games versus explosive energy. Eubank has been playing psychological chess since the beginning. Every move, every quote, every glance.
Eubank says he'll retire if Benn beats him. Can you see where that thought process comes from? Obviously Conor stepping up 2 weights, the amount of bad blood there's been.
Yeah, maybe then you just don't know. Maybe where does he go from there if Conor beats him? I'm not trying to say Conor's any less of a, but yeah, Chris is obviously the guy who should beat him because he's a lot heavier, maybe more seasoned, but you know, it's definitely a 50-50 fight in my eyes. I think Conor's going to beat him. So yeah, you can see where that thought process comes from, but you know, who knows? I know Chris likes to play poker a lot, so maybe comes back for the money or something.
It's all part of a bigger plan. He's been relentlessly pushing Benn's buttons, pulling him into a mental war that stretches far beyond the ropes. History has shown time and time again, fights are often won or lost before a single punch is thrown. Eubank knows this, and he's using it to his full advantage. Meanwhile, Benn walks a razor-thin line between controlled aggression and emotional overload. As the pressure builds, the big question remains, can Benn keep his composure? Or will Eubank's relentless psychological tactics break him down before the opening bell? Darren Till, never one to bite his tongue, has chimed in on Eubank's recent shocking claim. If Conor Benn beats him, he'll retire. It's a massive statement, and one that raises the stakes to an entirely new level. Benn is moving up in weight, and with the family history...
No proof in the pudding that says Conor Benn punches harder than me at 154. He's had 2 fights at 154 and hasn't had a knockdown, never mind anything else, so... yeah, if Conor wants to portray that and draw confidence from that and try and plant a seed in Chris's head, then so be it. But like I said, I'll stand on what I say. I've always been a better fighter than Conor Benn. I'm a better fighter than Conor Benn now. And
hanging over this fight, a loss for Eubank could be devastating. But here's the twist. Till doesn't see this as a clear-cut win for Eubank. To him, this fight is a coin toss, a 50-50 battle. Sure, Eubank has the size, the experience, and proven durability, but Benn brings explosive aggression and a pressure style that could spell serious danger. The real burning question is whether Eubank's retirement threat is sincere, or if it's just another one of his classic mind games. Till believes this could simply be Eubank's latest strategy to raise the stakes, build hype, and cash in on a massive payday. So, if Benn wins, will Eubank actually hang up the gloves, or is it just a bluff? Then there's Liam Smith, who's not holding back either. He's torn into Conor Benn, dismissing any talk of him being a big puncher.
I think it's going to be a very good fight. Conor has punching power chances. Chris is the bigger guy, so you give Chris the advantage going in because he's a bigger guy, but Conor does have exceptional punching power, so it's going to be a great fight. I think Chris should win the fight. I think Chris should outbox him, outsmart him, but he will have to be smart early because Conor is a great puncher.
Smith laughs it off, calling Benn's power hype, especially since he's only fought twice at the higher weight. Meanwhile, Smith has gone through wars with elite-level opponents and proven himself in the trenches. But here's where it gets really interesting. Benn seems desperate to prove he belongs at this level. Smith sees right through that act. He's called out Benn's weak resume and questioned whether he's earned the right to share the ring with true contenders. For Smith, the verdict is clear. He's the superior fighter, and he's never doubted it. So when the bell finally rings, will Conor Benn rise to the occasion or be exposed? On the flip side, Roy Jones Jr. isn't sugarcoating anything. He's calling this fight a high-stakes chess match with the potential for complete chaos. While he gives Chris Eubank Jr. the edge in terms...
It's actually a good thing sometimes to have a little bit of weight to train off. Not a lot, but, and I think that's what Eubank's got, whereas Conor is already at the weight, or there or thereabouts. So that's also a benefit in the sense like he can now just completely fuel his training and fuel his performance. But it's always going to favour the bigger man. Always going to favour the bigger man, but age is the biggest factor for me in this fight.
In terms of size, experience, and technical skill, Roy doesn't ignore the one terrifying wild card in the equation: Conor Benn's raw, violent power. Yes, Eubank may be the slicker technician, but Roy warns that if Chris blinks early or makes a single mistake, Benn's explosive aggression could end things within seconds. According to Roy, the early rounds will be a war zone. No time to ease in, no room for comfort. He directly challenges the narrative that Eubank is untouchable, saying that if Benn catches him clean, the whole fight could flip on its head instantly. Still, Roy believes Eubank has what it takes to win, but only if he fights smart from the very first bell. One lapse in judgment, and Benn could detonate like a bomb. The moment of truth is coming fast, and the margin for error is razor thin. Meanwhile, Shane McGuigan is offering an entirely different layer of insight. He highlights how Eubank Jr.'s decision to train while carrying extra weight might actually be a strategic advantage. The added pounds allow Eubank to push harder in training, building strength and endurance as he prepares for war. On the other side, Conor Benn, who's already close to his fight weight, is focusing on fine-tuning conditioning. While that may seem like a smarter, more efficient strategy on paper, McGuigan isn't sold. He points out that in combat, the bigger man often holds the edge, especially in terms of power and physicality. And let's not forget the age and experience factor. McGuigan believes that Eubank's maturity and ring IQ could be a deciding factor in the later rounds, where stamina, pacing, and mental toughness become everything. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who's got the edge? And don't forget to like the video if you're hyped for the clash.